Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Rav. If you haven't realized that by now, then welcome if you're new. So we are going to start doing something new going forward, is that we're going to start recording a little bit of a sort of a meta breakdown segment. So the way I want it to work is that going over each regional event or stuff that are posted on Xera's map or stuff that gets shared with me, I want to break down the meta that we're seeing, the decks that we're seeing, the shape up, and where we're sort of sitting meta-wise at the point in Grand Archive. And yeah, let me know if you guys are interested in these more types of videos. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, whatever, the usual YouTube stuff. You know what I mean? Just sort of find a way to let me know that you're interested in these types of videos, and I'd like to keep them going forward. So the first regional we're hitting on, the very most recent posted on Xera's map, we had 3 on the weekend of March 23rd, is the Haven Games Regional. So this was an in-person regional event down in Florida. It had about 23 people, 5-round Swiss regional event, and we ended up having a pretty decent breakdown, sadly, just due to the way that OmniDex works. We can't sadly view every single deck list unless we get in contact with the TO and we get the full breakdown. So all we really get is the top 8 on OmniDex, and then the top 4, the people who get the invite, is posted on Xera's map. But going from top to bottom, for our top 8 decks that we had 2 Fiza. I'm going to keep pronouncing Fiza. I've been yelled at for pronouncing it Fiza or Fiza. For me at this point, it's just funny, and I'm going to stick with it because every time I hear Fiza, I think pizza from Little Caesars. Nope, Little Caesars, if you want to sponsor the video, let me know. We have Water Guns, otherwise known as Water Diana. We have Rapid Fire, which is what I'm calling Fire Diana. We had Tony Smash, which is Jimmy Lee running his signature at this point, Tony Fire Aggro Smash list with a whole bunch of swords. We have an Arcane Rye, we had Water Xander allies, and we had a Luxem Xander as well. So congratulate those who ended up getting top 8, but sadly it was end up only 4 got the regional invite. So as we jump on over here to Xera's map, here is sort of the breakdown that we have. We have the Fire Xander coming in at first of Daniel, otherwise known as DJ. Congratulations to DJ for winning the event and getting your regional invite for the upcoming that season. We had Leak Blade running Fire Hybrid. The Fire Hybrid was a little bit of, this little bit of Xander Lorraine list going on there. It was sort of a mix of a Fiza, is what I would call it. But we'll go more into that later on as well. We had the Water Diana coming in the 3rd place, and then we had Fire Umbra Diana coming in the 4th place. Again, congratulations to those. I think Hama is Nick, which is got 3rd. And then we had Guruthos, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, end up getting 4th place and taking it over with the Fire Diana. So we're going to go top to bottom here, break down the list of what we're seeing, talk about the decks a little bit from these top 4 players. We're going to end up hopefully showing a little bit of a thing on screen where we have a little bit of the deck pricing of where it currently stands on TCG Player and go from there. So going straight into DJ's list. DJ is our ALC winner, the person who wins a nice little playmat as well. Is sort of the standard Fiza list. We had the Spirit of Fire, we had the level 1, level 2 Xander. Level 2 Xander from Proxy's Vault was really good in bringing back some of the reaction cards we need, either something like Planet Explosives. We can get back, if we're running it at this point, yep, we are running Flames. Mark the Target, Ignited Stab. We get a whole bunch of combo pieces back that will just try and close the game quicker. The Assassin's Ripper, you have your Baubles, Rain Trinket. This is about the normal list you'll see from the Fire Xander players list. There's nothing really standing out to me. We're running Terraframe, Protect Trinket, all the Baubles. It's a pretty standard list. And going over into the main deck. So this is sort of a variant, if I'm not mistaken, or it could be the exact list that Sean ran at Ascent Ontario. So we had the 4 Guild lists in here, 4 Honorable Vanguards, 2 Imperial Recruits, which is a nice addition that I like personally. This is a card I found really strong. It's a 2-drop that can become a 2-3, fit into that usual 2-3 body that most of these ally lists like to play. Into we have Woodland Squirrels, Arthur Young Heir, which sort of brings the deck together to complement this Fire Xander ally pile. We have Blazing Bowman, Blazing Throws, so we can throw the swords for possibly pushing lethal, maybe even 5 damage if we have, say, something Rook and Soul Knife and Poison Dagger out to combo into those. We're running the Blitz Mage. Blitz Mage is a card that has been cut in recent iterations. Pretty much talking to DJ, he goes, yeah, I just wanted about 5 copies of Gildus in my deck, so I ran 12. So, I mean, it gets the job done pretty nicely when you're getting in there for a 3-1 body or a 4-1 if you have Arthur on the field at the turn, and it always puts that clock higher for your opponent to have to either match the tempo or just lose to the swarm that's about to come its way. We have 3 Clumsy Apprentice, 3 Quasi Arsonist, 4 Quasi Courier, 3 Crimson Tier. Again, average package. The numbers sometimes tweak a little bit. Cards Arsonist is really good. The 2/2 really preventing those floating memory decks if they're trying to get shield mates out or library witches or something like that. It pretty much would banish instead of getting the die trigger, which is a really good card for this list to be running, especially with stuff like Fire Turbo Fog Rye, I should say. Sorry, you have stuff like Merlin. And a couple of lists as well, like the Diana list, we're also running sometimes shield mates, so you can prevent that floating memory level up. We have United Stab, Mark Target, Plant Explosives, Running Flames, and the new card from ALC, which has been sort of the staple that's really brought this card deck higher and higher into the meta for a little bit. Whereas Rococo is a really good card. It's a 1-drop, comes in, it does 2 damage. If it's a turn you Poison Dagger, you get 3 damage down, and then you get another 2 from its attack. Pretty much really setting up those combo turns with Poison Dagger to try and push like 19 damage and by turn 3. So it's a card that's really helped round out Fire Zander and really sort of stabilize its damage potential really early. Moving to the sideboard, you have the Grand Crusader's Ring, we have a Null Lantern, Sacred Amulet, Smoke Bombs, 2 Raccoons, and 2 Vrook Smoldering Spires. Pretty much average sideboard list. Vrook Smoldering Spires is a card that's brought in to say something has a lot of good prevention cards. It's just there to sort of push that extra damage through when you need it. We'll go over shortly how I think this deck's ranking in the meta as a whole after we go over the last couple of lists. We are out of order here, and I do apologize for that. We are going to go straight into this hybrid list here from Leak Blade. So this one's a little bit different. We are running a level 2 Lorraine. With the level 2 Lorraine, we are running stuff like Innervate Fury. We have Mark the Target still, Plant Explosives, Running Flame still. We're not running Flame Sweep. We are running the Home by Fire, though. We have a couple of Thieving Cuts. So this list is a little bit different because the fact that you do have the level 2 Lorraine and level 1 Lorraine, you can do a couple different things with like Home by Fire and Rending Flames to go that route. If you need to, you're running the 4 Flame Sweep in the sideboard if you're facing the ally heavy list. This list is overall interesting. I think this is a very interesting take on Fire Zander and the hybrid list we're seeing from Erupting before. I don't know how much. I really want to know what matchups Leak Blade ran into because obviously lost to DJ after. I don't know how the matchups went as a whole. But this list is really interesting because you're also running the Inspiring Calls. You have your Thieving Cut still in there if you want to do the on-hand preparation. If you de-level to, say, Innervate Fury, you still have Create a Shock, Screamation Rituals. You have a lot of different iterations in here and ways to kill your opponent. You're still sort of relying on the Rending Flames combo. But at the same time, you have enough allies that you can not go pure Rending Flames and just try and overvalue them with just the pure ally pressure you're putting on with stuff like Crimson Tear and Arthur Young Air hitting the field and swinging for an extra 3 to 4 damage every single turn, especially if you're somehow able to combo it with something like the Poison Dagger. And then into the sideboard, we had the Fire Bobble, all the bobbles that pretty much come in based on the matchups you're coming into. You have Viridian Protected Trinket if you're facing the water, and Flame Sweeps for the ally heavy lists. Going into deck number 3, we have Hama on Water Diana. This is a list I know him and Neutral End, otherwise known as Amphi, have been sort of talking back and forth on. The list is a very interesting one. The list that's very heavily reliant on floating memory. So you have stuff like Tactical Retreat in here, and you have Fast Cure, you have Idle Thoughts, you have Deploy the Gun Shield, you have you have Shieldmate, Fracturize, Freezing Round. You have a lot of different cards that really want to interact with the floating memory to then either A, get an early level up with the free cards, use stuff like Frostborn Paladin to get the bonus off to get the draw on enter as well, and you can mix it in with stuff like Carter, False Step, Humble Tithe. It's a level 3 Water Diana list that's a little bit slower, but also really good at not going negative in its card value to go ahead and get that level up potential. So it's something that people have to really keep an eye on when they're playing against it, because it's one of the things where the deck sort of stabilizes itself in the value that it generates. So I think this list is really interesting. We have stuff like Taser Shot in here. We still have the Blast Shot Pump to clear boards of allies. We could sit there and have Shadow Swim. We have a Cascading around the mill to put more floating memory into your graveyard so you don't have to cast it to level up and filter out through your deck a little bit quicker as well. This list is really, really interesting. I'm really interested to see if it's something that's still being tweaked or if this is the quote-unquote final version. But knowing something like Hama, it's probably never going to be a final version. He's always going to be tweaking and building this deck a little bit differently as it goes along. And then into slot number 4, we had Fire Diana. I don't know if this is the exact list that Limelight ran at one of the nationals, but this deck has been sort of popping up lately. It's a very fast Diana list. It wants to go ahead and go down on cards, but at the same time, rapidly level Diana to go ahead and get the Shadow's Twin turn to put 2 Creeping Torments on like turn 3, turn 4, have a card of Resolve, and then sit there and just really apply pressure in the value that you're gaining. Because you're leveling so quickly, your opponent's so behind on board state that you don't care if you're down cards, pretty much to the point that you're just going to try and outvalue them every single turn because you can keep on applying creeping torments. You could get stuff like Taja Shot to prevent them from leveling up or hurt them every time they want to go ahead and level up. Let's say Taja Shot on their level 1, they have to take 8 damage if you Shadow Twin it on your turn. So there's a lot of different ways that this deck kills your opponents and really wants to just keep on applying a high tempo game into your opponent and then applying that pressure very consistently. So going back to what we discussed before, how I want to break down this meta, this is a very interesting regional meta. Fire Zone is a list that's sort of been on the rise, on the fall, on the rise, on the fall lately. It's a list that's really good if you know your local meta and what you're playing into. Fire Zone is really good at rushing people down. It's a deck that, if people aren't expecting it, can go ahead and just combo off turn 3 if people aren't prepared to sort of play against that type of line, because a lot of people might sometimes see the Fire and Xander and think it's some weird type of Serene list. I'm not Serene list. Luxem list, but not as much because it's not running Serene Spirit of Fire. But Fire Xander is a list that is sort of classified itself into the like tier 1.5 ranking in meta scale. It's a card that's really good, almost tier 2. It's a deck that's really good. It's really good if your sort of meta isn't expecting it, but it very easily lose if your opponents are really expecting a Fire Xander heavy meta and they tech a lot of different cards like Scavenging Raccoons or Nullify Lantern or different cards that can really interact with that deck, and knowing how to prepare for it really hurts the Fire Xander list as a whole. So it's a really good list, a really good meta call by DJ. Probably piloted it also excellently to go ahead and win the event. So congrats to DJ for that one. On to the Leak Bleeds list. So Leak Bleeds list, like I said, is a very interesting list. This is a deck, I don't know how to rank it. I will keep it around the Fire Xander. I don't know if it's a worse version of Fire Xander. I mean, it's the fact that you're running stuff like Home by Fire, you have Lorraine, you could level and de-level with Innervate Fury. I don't know if slowing down your game plan benefits you or hinders you. It's something I really got to see played more, how this matchup works. It is a very interesting take, though, on the entire meta as a whole, because you have stuff like the main Exilic, Cremation Ritual, mixed with the Poison Dagger turns can do a lot of damage. You have Inspiring Calls, you have your Thieving Cuts, unlike Fire Xander in here. You have your Shieldmates as well to slow down a little bit, take a little bit of taunt damage, and get the floating memory to level up instead of wasting cards out of your memory. And you're running 2 Rokokos versus a 4, so you're not too reliant on that method as well. So I'm really interested to see how this comes into play more. I want to see if more people bring it. It's really a list that interests me. Not enough I can run it personally. It's not my style of deck, but I really want to see how this does as a whole going forward. This, like I said, is a very interesting take. I don't know if it's better than, say, Fiza or just pure Aggro Fire Lorraine. I don't know if it falls in between, if it's better, or if it's worse. On paper, I want to say it's worse a little bit, but it could not be. It could really play a lot differently than what I'm thinking in my head here. Then we have Hama's Water Dynamite. This is a list that Hama's been running, I think, pretty much since the start of ALC. This is a list I've enjoyed thoroughly. I think you've always had the issue, though, with Water Dynamite just sometimes can get outvalued due to the slower pace of gameplay it wants to go through. If you're facing something like, say, Luxem Xander with Excaliburs can deal with it. You have stuff like Merlin that I feel is pretty good into it, especially because of the slower pace of the Water Diana. Exercise curses and such can resolve as well and really start stabilizing yourself as Merlin. Or Erupting just outpaces it as well if they play around stuff like Frostbind and the Nullifying Lantern Factorized combo as well. It's a good list. It's a list that I think is definitely almost, I'm going to put it in like the tier 2 of meta calls at this point. It's probably a deck that's really good if you have the experience piloting someone like Kama who could really utilize each value of the turns. So I want to say its complexity level is up there to get the most amount of value from this deck as a whole. And it's something that I think people have to be really careful about bringing it to your own regional itself. And then we have Fire Dynamite. Again, same thing. This is a deck list that's really good if you know the meta call. You saw Limelight bring it into a Nationals. He wasn't expecting Water Allies, and it was an amazing meta call. There was hardly any Water Allies he faced. And he just blitzed through a whole bunch of Fire Merlin lists or a whole bunch of Luxem lists and just comboed off sooner than his opponent and was really just applying pressure and dominating the Nationals. I think he went undefeated, if I'm not mistaken, the entire event. So this is a list that's also very complex. I think Diana is a very complex deck as a whole. It's really about utilizing and maximizing the value of each and every single turn to know about when you're going to have to go ahead and level, when you have to get the gun, when you have to play around with Excalibur, when you have to do a whole bunch of different interactions. Like say also with guns, you have the interaction of loading a bullet, swinging, Holding priority where the gun leaves the intent, you can load another bullet in to get extra damage off the shadow terrain. So there's a lot of different things that you can go ahead and maximize the value of this deck, and it's really rule intricate. It's a deck that really utilizes knowing the rules and interactions of Grand Archive, especially with guns and bullets and the way it plays as a whole, to really get the best value you can out of this list. The only reason why I would put this at a tier 2 in a medical is just because of pure complexity. And just because it has a decent amount of bad matchups as a whole, where this could be really detrimental if you're playing into a field full water allies or wind allies. There's a lot of bad matchups this deck can have as a whole. And something that's so complex that you have to really know how the interactions work to get the best value out of it. But that's sort of the roundup of this Florida ALC regional. I'm going to make probably another video at some point breaking down my overall meta calls for a regional. But I think for something like this is something that really played well into it. This is a little bit different than what I would expect to see from our regional. I wasn't expecting Fire Xander, but again, we have so many different metas across the states, across almost the world, as you see the EU and Oceania list, not playing too much of the Lux and Water Allies list before. So everywhere has a different localized meta, and it's always going to be beneficial to know your meta and what you're playing into versus in just bringing the best deck. As you see with DJ bringing Fire Xander, it was a great meta call. I don't think it's the best deck in the format, but it was so good to bring that it really ended up being beneficial to secure their regional national invite into the 2025 season. Well, like I said, guys, that is it. If you have anything you'd like to input or anything you'd like to see next, feel free to leave a comment below. But in the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and hope to catch you in the next one. Peace.